and then Judy, take it over.
Okay, I'm going to wait right until 2, though, to start, because people may want to arrive.
Will you be able to signal us when we're getting near the end of our time, each of us?
Well, would you like me to do that? How should I signal you? Say, wave my hand?
Okay. If others don't want it, that's fine.
It's 7 minutes, is that correct?
Roughly 7. You know, 7 times 7 is 49.
49. Yeah, so
And so that leaves us quite a bit of additional time. So if you go over 7, it's not the end of the world. But if you go over 8, you're beginning to squeeze the other people, you know. Of course, if you're the last one, there's no one to squeeze, but you will have been squoze. So.
squoze, I like it. You've been squozed. The squoze know it.
So we don't want to squoze the last person.
Won't be the first time.
That's a good point. But I used to run reading series. That's why I always try to explain to the people that said, "Oh, can I read my entire memoir in the 2-minute time frame?" And then I would say, "Well, that's going to really be unfair to the people at the end. So how about no?" Yeah.
You're strict. It was good.
They would come up like to me with these whole 3 pages of totally justified all the way across the page. And they said, "Do you think I could fit this in 2 minutes?" I'm like, don't think so.
Where the phone comes in handy to time it. Yeah.
That's right.
A male,
And-
a male, hooray.
Oh yeah, I know him. Hi, Peter.
Welcome to the girl party. It'll be fun for you.
Now we're really transnational. You're in on the East Coast. Maryland? Maryland, I think.
Let's give the audience maybe a couple minutes to arrive, because a few people are showing up and, you know, there's no need to
Sorry about that.
Bless you.
rush them. And we don't want to cut off the first person from the full audience. So maybe we'll start at a couple minutes after 2. I'm going by the times that my laptop is showing me.
Hey, since we're waiting, I wanted to just take a minute instead of cutting into my time to say that I had 2 retinal detachments in June and 2 emergency surgeries. And my vision is not great yet. And so if I have any weird little pauses, or it means I'm having what I call the blur out. So I could say it's an elongated pause from the poem, but the reality is I'm probably having a visual thing, but I will come back to it. Just give me maybe 5
Okay,
minutes.
we won't do anything. We'll just say, okay.
Yep. Just having the blur out. I mean, hopefully it's supposed to get better over time, but they said it's going to be months. So
Wow.
it's a
Okay.
very traumatic thing.
Yeah.
They look at you and say, "Guess what? You have to have emergency surgery today." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Heaven. That's intense.
I don't recommend it. Yeah.
No. I'm going to wait.
Okay.
This
Judy,
2:03.
do you want to start? Because
I'm going
we
to
just
start
want.
when it says 2:03.
Okay.
The longest minute in the world. There we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another day in our continuing virtual poetry traveling show. My name is Judy Bertelsen, and I'm your host today. While we are called the Marin Poetry Center, you don't need to be from Marin to participate or to be a member. The Poetry Center is open to all. Please check the website at marinpoetrycenter.org and take a look around at the many things going on and consider joining us. One of the odd benefits of COVID restrictions has been widening boundaries far beyond the physical. So please check us out and join us for whatever looks interesting to you. We have 7 wonderful poets today, and without further ado, let's welcome Lily MacKenzie.
I'm going to add the middle name there too.
Okay,
Yeah.
Lily Lona MacKenzie.
Iona.
Iona, I'm sorry, Lily Iona MacKenzie. I
So-
apologize.
So thanks, Judy, and thanks to those of you who are still making this traveling show happen. I just wanted to mention briefly that years ago, I was chair of the Marin Poetry Center when Cole Swenson first started the traveling show. I don't know if any of you remember that, but so it's a pleasure to see how the center has grown and the traveling show is still traveling. I just had my most recent poetry collection published by Shanty Arts Press. And the poems I'm going to read today are from that collection. I wish I could show you the cover, but I don't have it in my hands yet. But I have the covers of all my other books, novels, and so on behind me. The poem I'm going to start with is entitled Corn. To cook is to know how tough it is to blend unfriendly ingredients, to be a politician in the kitchen, talking to garlic and spices as if they were constituents that will keep you in office. Food, our daily bread, is important for body and soul, as corny as that sounds, but corn comes in stalks whose roots go deep into the ground and reach for the sky, producing golden nuggets that burst with flavor between our teeth. The next poem is entitled If Only. Last night, grandfather spoke into my left ear, angry about something he'd read and wanting me to understand why I didn't know the dead could feel such fire. His words burned in my brain. My own mortality seems more certain now. Once I could convince myself I would live forever. If only I could wear the skin of the past and tuck the future into a pocket whose opening I would sew shut. If only I didn't think these thoughts on a Saturday evening near midnight. I could sleep like a child, and grandfather would hold me in his arms, singing softly into both ears of the wind and the night's soft feet padding outside my door. The next poem is the title poem from my current collection, California Dreaming. All morning I've been watching the plastic Santa in the yard across the street. He's riding a green John Deere tractor that lifts each time the wind blows, threatening to fall over, then rights itself briefly, Santa's right arm raised in greeting, his left gripping the wheel. He resembles a Bronco buster, barely keeping his seat. The tractor's rear wheels leave the ground with each gust. Next to him, a plastic snowman struggles to keep erect. Like a balk bag, the wind can't knock down these Christmas symbols, determined to keep going in the face of all odds. The next poem is entitled The Artist's Call. The trees are bleeding, and Pizarro isn't here to paint them, so I must do a quick sketch before leaves fall, or we'll all fall until the wind picks us up and we bleed again, hoping no one will notice our frayed edges, but artists see, and if not Pizarro, then another will capture these fleeting days on earth. This next poem is entitled, This Is Not a COVID-19 Poem. I'm determined not to write a poem about COVID-19. So here I am, remembering how sheltering in place resembles life on our Canadian farm all those years ago. I was just a girl, and days flowed into each other. Excitement was when one of our animals gave birth. Otherwise, our days were placid. Animals, the land, and what was growing on it determined their rhythms. Pre-TV, we didn't expect to be entertained 24/7. We moved through each day as animals did, eating, grazing, inhabiting our protective bubble until a dust storm arose or a neighbor stopped by for tea. This poem, even though I wasn't going to write a COVID-19 poem, seems to have been involved in COVID-19. It's entitled Bursting Free. It's odd in this time of COVID-19 and George Floyd protests to watch our many lilies of the Nile trying to burst from protective pods. Some are just starting to break free, though the pod still dominates, pointing like a finger skyward. Others have blossomed, blue petals breaking loose, hungry for light. On this day of Floyd's burial, it's not odd to see life, death, and resurrection everywhere. The shadows our trees make on the house are in constant motion from a breeze passing through, a shadow play, but we're the puppets, our lives contingent on what fate throws our way. And sort of continuing on that theme, this next poem is entitled The March of Time. The march of time is trite, but how else can we capture what time does? It mimics an army of dedicated soldiers following orders, unrelenting in its movement forward. I thought of this yesterday as I watched the honor guard carrying John Lewis's casket after his funeral service. The captain of the group regularly called out forward. And so it is on this last day of July in 2020, I hear those words echoing forward when I want to stop, look around, maybe take a few paces back or do a soft shoot, but instead I'm driven onward. The calendar in control states August 1 comes up tomorrow and there's no going back. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for that lovely notion of a cook as a politician in the kitchen. Won't forget that. Our next reader is Susanne West.
All righty, thank you. So this first poem is entitled Threads of Light. The threads of light woven into us since the beginning streamed me away from the dark of the family, who could only see their light in the electric promises of this world. The threads knew that I would find true home. Invisible help would guide me. I would weather the harrowing journey. Pain would crack me, that is, open me, to make more space for the light. Changing from wisps to ribbons, to rushing, roaring rivers that would flow into the dry, barren reservoirs in this being, thirsting, longing for life and light. And this next one is to my daughter, and it's in my book called Subterranean Light. You are broken and you are whole. This morning, your shining blonde hair, full belly laughing, a field of glow. My heart falls into place. I remember you clutching your belly on the cold tile floor in the New York hotel, writhing, burning, silent screams. You needed me to stay back. I've never felt so helpless. Disease is a cauldron, boils us to the core, disrupts, dismantles, strips layers of seeming safety. Disease keeps us in not knowing, stretches us beyond where we think we can go, forges us in its heat, transforms, humbles. You tend to this wisely in your quiet ways. Grace is known to you, pain and fire, the teachers that turn you towards the sacred. I do not know all the ways of your mind or see all the times you fall to your knees, yet it's clear today by your restful smile that you are watering holy seeds and sit cupped in the hands of the universe. And this is a pretty recent one. It's called Can We Be Love? In these troubled times, are we closer to the roots as we witness a shattering of the old, as vaults of dark secrets are being cracked open? Are we at times relieved that scabs are being ripped off, that wounds and injustices can be seen and breathed now? Is our buried grief being unearthed? Do we feel the unspoken laments of our ancestors as we let in the heartbreak of our abandoned sisters and brothers who've been cast out for millennia? Is the inhumanity firing us up to love more? Can we show our tails, growl, howl, roar, let our hearts bleed openly, come out of hiding, get real? What about Mother Earth? Can we see our greed and selfishness with raw eyes? See what we have stolen, what we have destroyed? Cry for her? Help her? Are we able to see our oneness and commit to foster healing? Can we be love? Are we inspired to gather in the streets, at altars, in temples, at shrines, at the sea, and become humble before the divine? Serve our sorrowing world. And I have one more, and then I have a couple of little micro poems. This is called To Listen is to Love. To listen is to dethrone the surface mind, be led by the silky hushes of sky, thrumming of roots, the blood, the sounds of blood, crows, the tears and wings inside words, the subterranean mind. Listening delivers us to the vastness at the core of everything. To listen is to love. When I don't listen to you, you become lonely, hollow. I hear anger steaming inside every word and the spaces between. We have listening wounds. We were dismissed at best. It's not our fault. We need to scream about it. Listen to our wounds. Let them speak. Listening braces the scars. Listen, feel how our words close when we're bitter. Listen to what's behind the fortress of thoughts. To listen is to bless. Listen to the other until there is no other. I'm drawn to people who hear quiet things. The mountain wants us to listen. the way she does. And now let's see, maybe two little micropoems. I love that word micropoems. I used to call them aphorisms or just short poems. And then someone in an open mic called them micropoems, called his. And I went, oh my God, that's what I loved. All right. So this is called poetry. My words are yesterdays until I enter them and they start rolling in the dust and cawing with the crows. And they, this last one, vanish, disappear, let eternity think for you, then speak. So thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Suzanne. That rolling in the dust was really fun and to the point. I also enjoyed your many sources of light, including subterranean light. Wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next reader is Sandra. Where is Sandra?
Here I am.
Good. Okay.
Thank you, Judy. Thanks, everyone. This is great. I'm going to read, the first poem I'm going to read is from my 2019 chapbook, Road Warrior, Poems of the Inner and Outer Landscape. And they're all poems of place. So this one is called Plunge, and the setting is Banana Shout Cottages, Ocho Rios, Jamaica. Huts of woven straw crown an ocean cliff. Each morning, Cleo, the fruit lady, wakes us with her song, orange juice, soursop juice. It filters through the gauzy curtain of my dreams. In the outdoor kitchen, we cobble together an Aki breakfast, stumble into swimsuits, take the short hike to the promontory. It takes me days to find the nerve to jump. I watch with envy as the others throw a kiss to island skies and drop like ninjas over the ledge. The fall is 15, maybe 20 feet. The more I ponder it, the more my feet are fused to stone. When I relent, the jackknife of my life careens, heart, gut, and head plunge together from the edge. As I fall, I calmly bid my breath goodbye. The ocean welcomes me into its bed. Later that week, a Rastafarian teaches me the scuba dive ballet. We stand knee-deep in shallow water. Under the umbrella of his beneficence, I take a second plunge. Eating jerk chicken on the topless beach, I try to comprehend what I've just done and learn I've used less air than anyone. Such a foreign brand of letting go, from the stumbling of love or lust. Toes lose their grip on the floorboards, body and senses tumbling toward the vortex or the light, whichever comes first. And now I'm going to read 3 poems from my brand new chapbook from Kelsey Books, Finishing School, which are all poems of teaching and being a student. The first one is called Memory. When you have forgotten the color of the bird lady's eyes, the one who cradled fallen robins, their venal roadmap pulsing through translucent flesh, on the street with the forgotten name, come find me and we'll rewind the clock. When you have forgotten the chemical assault in the grade school bathroom the teachers dubbed court, the sting of gravel on the skinned knee in the playground, and the shrill of the bell that summoned us back to metal desks. Lob a spitball at the board while Miss Heck's back is turned. When you have forgotten the stench of Madame Fatel's perfume, a roux of cloves and fetid breath, and the pinch of her ceinture as she loomed above you, red pen like a dagger in her fist, meet me under the sycamore where Sam buried the time capsule. When you have forgotten the words like 50s tattoos that pierced the flesh of your young heart, the taunts of cousins fighting over finch eggs and chemistry sets, and the topo map of rings that circled your sister's eyes with the passing years, her death a guillotine to the promise of forgiveness. Follow me to the grandmother tree and give me your hands. Sing with me the old lullabies we were suckled on. Thank you. And the next one is called Beholder. I taught fourth grade for a long time, and this aspect of science was really hard for me. Okay, oh goodness. It's called Beholder. On this morning's trek, a flute-winged jay tipped and dove above the trail. Last night's rain had licked the pavement clean, flushed my atoms into rock and plank and loam. I remembered the unit I taught on vision, how afraid I was to reveal the dark secret to 10-year-olds, as if outing the Easter Bunny. How a bird's color enters the pupil a dull gray before the image is absorbed like salt in water in the organs of our eyes, reflecting a breathless red or blue. I longed to skirt this truth, but the sacrament of organs on my doorstep, gift of the tabby, whispered, "Buck up, it's only science." I flash on the rufous hummingbird, cardinal, golden oriole, and scrub jay, and picture Gaia pulling wavelengths from a hat. The house wren always draws the shortest straw. The last one from this book is called East Side Story. Hands on our hearts in the dark theater, a gaggle of 8th grade girls slouch in the schwitzbath of our collective awe. As Tony and Maria embrace on the balcony, we taste their forbidden love, sweet and tart as new strawberries. Huddled beneath the triangle scarves we sewed in home ec, we hold our breath through the kisses, grip forearms at the rumble, exhale during the dance numbers. I want to be in America bursts from my throat as I wash the dishes, sweep the house, or turn the soil. Bail bond shops border dress marts, blooming with quinceañera gowns, turquoise, yellow, and red. They bind my heart to the drama, like the rick-racked skirts of island dolls that whirl across the IMAX screen of memory. Are we the same girls who flirted with Ouija boards at seances in the bottom bunk, at summer camp? The ones who danced with lead-tongued boys at socials in the rec hall? So little has changed since then. Everything has changed. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Thank you for those graphic moments of learning to jump. And also for the notion of death as a guillotine to the promise of forgiveness. That's amazing. And our next reader is Connie Post.
Okay, thank you. It's been great to hear all your poems so far. I'm going to be reading from I have had the good fortune of having 2 new books out this year, which doesn't usually happen, but my first book I'll be reading from is Between Twilight from New York Quarterly Books, and the next one is called Broken Metronome, about my brother's illness and journey from Parkinson's. That's from Glassfire Press. The poems I'm going to be reading from Between Twilight have a little bit of a content warning because there's some childhood trauma in it. But the first poem, let me see what time it is. Our first poem I'll be reading is called Estrangement. And just so you know, at any given time in America, 27% of people would be estranged from a family member for some reason or another. So I think it's an important thing to look at. Estrangement. It's not like it happens suddenly. You step off a curb and agree to take a little time away. Maybe take a trip to another city. You look out the window of the bus as the streets pass by. A few weeks go by, a small building collapses. Then it's months and a road buckles, and the signs reroute you to a small town. A metal bridge sways in the distance. You are not sure you can cross it again. You live in your house made of clay and sin, and every day the river runs higher to the underside of the bridge, and soon 20 years of silence has passed. You watch a burning city from far away, and notice a pigeon flying towards you, gaining speed, pulling the sky's edges with it, finally landing, carrying its message to an unmarked grave. This next one is actually about the body. Sorry about that. I have at least 3 autoimmune diseases, and I think it's interesting, the whole idea of how a body can turn against your immune system. Autoimmune. One part of the body turns against the other, reacts as if an enemy has invaded. The war against friendly fire goes on for years, possibly decades. One doctor after another gives pills in doses unrecognizable to your broken mouth. Late at night, you read one medical article after another, trying to understand why the armed forces attacked a sovereign place in the body. You toss, you turn, the siege goes on. You sleep, you love, you banish yourself from your own bed. You watch yourself line up words inside your mind, a small army encroaching from afar. This next one is about a river in Washington that my dad used to take us to in Washington. It's called the Chehalis River. River call. You took your boat out on the Chehalis River and caught sturgeon with your brother who was dying of pancreatic cancer. I think of you, Father, holding up the prehistoric-looking fish, your hand in its mouth, and that half smile, half sneer. After twilight, you took us inside the cabin, put aside your cores, and cut the meat from the bone and sawed through the coarse skin. You spoke to me through gritted teeth. You told me that too soon the waters would be too heavily fished and there would be too few sturgeon. You told me your own father used to take you fishing before 5 a.m. after a beating the night before. For years after you climbed out of our bunk beds, you left at dawn with a car full of whiskey and drove to the dark lake near our home, searching for your ancient self as if the fish were still hiding from you in that deep, sandy bottom. And then this other one is, I had a lot of struggles in junior high, particularly, I mean, all through, but particularly this grade. When I was in 8th grade, I kept a list of everyone I hated at school in my diary. Occasionally, if someone was nice to me, I'd cross off their name. In winter, I discovered that my mother went through my diary and she told me I've never seen a child with so much hate. And she shook her head and walked away. At home, I often beat up my older sisters. I hid in my bunk bed and cut the eyes out of my dolls. She has such a bad temper, they would say in other rooms. I didn't understand it either. My father loved me so much he couldn't leave me alone, so much that I was sequestered into the slanted rooms where all the doors disappeared. Sometimes when I kicked holes in the walls, my father would patch them up for me. I merely had to hand him the spackle and he would smooth it all away. I can no longer find those old diaries. I have no lists, just a box in the garage with some loose, blank pages and a doll I never named. And then I have a few more minutes, and then I'm going to read about a couple of them, 2 or 3 maybe, from the Broken Metronome. This is called Searching. And my brother got Parkinson's really early in his life, at 42. So he died when he was just 59. And it was a very painful and terrible death. Searching. Scientists search for a cause. All I can do is comb the literature like a student cramming for exams, trying to map the way back to your first symptom. How can we know what decisions a body will make for us? How can we know how long a mutation will keep a secret? How can we know where your mind is when you can no longer speak? All I can do is hold on to is the memory of your hand in mine when we first went to Sunday school and believed in everything. I think I have. for yeah, just a really short one and then another one. So there's something called contracture in Parkinson's where the muscles can become very stiff and not able to move them. Contracture is a fixed tightening of muscle, tendons, ligaments, or skin. It prevents normal movement of the associated body part. The nurse increased the dose of your fentanyl patch today. It will take up to 48 hours to take effect. In the meantime, you continue with breakthrough doses of morphine. I think about the small gathering of trees outside your window. I wonder if at dusk they secretly tell you how to keep your limbs intact and yet learn to bend with the wind. The last one is my brother and I fought a lot. We were all back a year apart when there was 5 of us and we fought the most. And I had a temper. And anyway, so we played chess a lot. And that was one of the things that we used to get into things about. The last time we played chess, I threw a rook at you before I stomped out of the room. We were teenagers. Now that you're gone, I can't stop thinking about your quiet approach, placing each pawn out one by one. I watched your fingers lightly touch the chess pieces, showing how you understood the intricate balance in the power of the board. I think of your fingers in the last year of your life, clinging onto the bed rails. How I placed your hands gently on your blanket after you'd gone to sleep. How could we have known then that death had its own strategy? How could I have known how regret jumps over everything else like the knights on the board? I no longer play the game. I am no longer willing to glue together broken bishops and bereft kings. I fold the chessboard the way I sometimes close a book before it's over, dog-earing the pages as if I'll remember the way back.
Thank you. Thank you for many precise and pithy words, including autoimmune as a war against friendly fire. That's nice. Okay, our next reader is Terri Glass.
I'm going to read about 5 poems, and they're all kind of eclectic. I often read nature poems. Those are kind of my forte, but today it's going to be a variety. This one's called What Holds the Emptiness of My Once Childhood. There's a poem of forgotten dreams that lie sleeping like my Barbie doll, enclosed in her case of sheathed dresses. There's a poem in the lilac garden not in bloom yet. Only a ginkgo tree's greenery stands out in beauty. And nothing left in the garden gift shop where I once bought lilac lotion for my 88-year-old mother. There's nothing to buy in this scenario, not a flower, a scent, a plant for the future. There was once poetry in a creek I played in, full of tiny boats, a creek my grandfather crossed to build a farm with chicken, pigs, and goats. The goat house, chicken coop, pig pen, torn down one by one, an apparition now. The only thing left, a taste in my mouth of rhubarb that grew next to the creek. There was once a poem with a song, a polka played on an accordion by my father who danced through the house. The house still stands, my father long gone. The gaiety drifted outside into 2 tall firs that gently hold the song in their branches. And the creek holds the squeals, clucks, and baws of the farm animals. The case holds the Barbie doll in her blue dress with a bow tie at the waist. The lilac garden dreams of sun-filled days when they can burst into lavender, purple, and white. And my mother lies deep in the earth, silent as an unplayed piano. This one's called Falling. This one's really about aging, all the wonderful things you experience as you get older. Walking parallel to the river at Panther Flat, swish, and the corgi barrels into the back of my leg, pulling me off balance. My knees give out and I fall on my bony elbow deep into the ground. I fall with uncertainty of how this world can sustain any living thing. Already fallen from youth right off the monkey bars into middle age. I got up and fell from middle age right off the swing of sex appeal into the sawdust of senior citizen. I lay on top of detritus, the heap before it breaks down into earth, I lay there with bacteria, earthworms, fungi, masters of recycling the elements. I stand up, pause for a moment, nurse my elbow, curse the dog. I keep walking forward, something in the distance, tiny trilliums, pink as flushed cheeks of young love, sprouting from this same earth where so many things have fallen. This one's called Lost Songs. There's a songbird in Australia whose males have lost their songs. No one to teach them. Only a few hundred left of this honey eater. So the young males mimic other birds and the females decline their offer, confused by what they hear. During the Industrial Revolution, men worked long hours in factories, coal mines, railroads, returned home too tired for their children. The young boys lost their songs to railway ties, hammering mines, conveyor belts. During World War II in Vietnam, young males lost their songs in trenches on battlefields, came back scarred as hell, and their children didn't understand what songs to carry forth. So they wrote a new anthem of peace and love that lasted a decade, then faded into the glitz of Wall Street, later a silicon chip. Where are the songs now? They are recorded in the last glacier melting, the last humpback male eerily calling its mate. Most are buried deep in Earth's library, woven into birds' nests or women's braids. The songs of birds, the songs of men, waiting to be sung again. This one's called Old Growth Coast Redwood. I'm doing a series of poems about the endangered wildlife of Del Norte County, where I live. Del Norte County is the most northern county in California. It borders Oregon on the California coast. Shooting straight up into the sky, the tallest trees in the world see everything. They see their kind diminishing from drought, mega fires, real estate development, vineyards. Between 1850 and 1960, clear cutting, culminating after World War II by building industry boom, which decimated these forests for their durable and beautiful wood. Only 4% of old growth redwoods remain. These trees are Methuselahs, cathedrals of carbon, sanctuary for wood warblers, salamanders, marbled merlets, tight-knit families, fairy rings of new trees sprouting from parent tree, magical, magnificent in height and breadth, and magnanimous in restoring life. A part of earth we must preserve, if for nothing else, the awe and tranquility they gift us when walking underneath their immense stature. This one's called Still Life with Matthew, and this is a summer poem. This is like what might be happening today. Late afternoon, under the beige umbrella, he sits knitting a soft shawl, the color of Dijon. His gray beard brushes against his neck as he bends his head over his hands, watching the smooth silver needles make a larger loop every third stitch. I ask him who the shawl is for. He doesn't know, but keeps knitting under the umbrella shade, while our dogs play tag with one another in dry grass. His hands are hypnotized by the motion, his face tranquil like watching a dragonfly alight on a pond of lilies. Behind him, ripening blackberries poke through a wide-barred fence. The dogs pant, heavy with play. Here is summer's bounty, a simple task sitting under shade, the air sensing the closing of the day. I feel I'm in a brushstroke by Monet. And the last, I'm just going to read you a few haiku. I love to write haiku, especially when I don't want to write anything long, although they're kind of tricky to master. Haiku. Among lily pads, my dog watches koi surface, then falls face in.
Plop.
Walking in the woods, scat, paw prints, hollowed out hives, but never the bear. mad as a hornet when my coffee mug broke that said, "Be happy." Cold, overcast morning, the neighborhood, no one dares to get out of bed. Last year, mobility, the couple now circle the park, each with a walker. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for so much music, including Mother in her grave, silent as an unplayed piano.
Thank you.
Okay, our next reader is Elaine Chapman.
Hello, everybody. It's good to be here. It's an honor to read with everyone. And I'm really grateful for this opportunity. So I'm going to read from two books, Hunger for Salt and Reservoir, both published by St. Julian Press. The first poem is called Morning Poem. And I'm reading this poem today. We just got word that our dog is having trouble breathing. And so he's much older than when I wrote this poem. Morning Poem. This morning, the air heavy with heat. I pull back my hair and breathe. Grasses are still wet with dew. It's good to begin the day in a field. I say, "Are you ready?" And the dog runs before I've even thrown the ball. He's driven by routine. I used to say, "I've raised 2 children and 6 dogs." This is the 7th. In a dream several nights ago, he sweet-talked me, spoke as if I were his love. Since then, I sweet-talk him back, as if he were mine. Crazy, in the midst of loss, to be loved so. The second poem I'm going to read, it was written before the pandemic. And then the pandemic happened, and I felt like, wow, okay, I must have felt it coming. It's called Urgency. Last night, I talked my son through the city, over the Golden Gate, past Sausalito to San Anselmo, while my husband drove to a hospital and sat with a man who discovered his wife on the bathroom floor, hemorrhage to the brain, passing from one world to another. And this morning I watered the plants while he drove back to anoint her with oil and pray. No children, only a nephew and a 90-year-old uncle. It was a restless night. No one understands my urgency. A few hours ago, I watched 2 herons circle high overhead. We must love fiercely. We must say, "Open your eyes, look at me." It is midsummer and the heat oppressive. Some days it's hard to breathe. Last night I woke in a sweat, even my hair wet. Too many days have passed since I looked my loved ones in the eyes. I hear their voices. I render myself helpless. And my husband's daughter still estranged. No plan for reconciliation. The woman's ventilator removed an hour ago. She is breathing on her own. Her dying may take several days, and we prepare for yet another funeral. We say, "I love you." We say, "We will be together soon. So a couple of years ago, I fell in love with a sacred text. And the sacred text is the Radiant Sutras. And it's an ancient text, and it's translated by Lauren Roche. And so I did a project where I just took a random Radiant Sutra and I would meditate on it and then just write from it. So this is Radiant. So I'm going to read the Radiant Sutra first, and then I'll read the poem. Radiant Sutra number 23. And it's so gracious that Lauren Roche actually gave me permission to include them in the book. So I was grateful to him. Radiant Sutra number 23. Forget all your ideas about the body. It's this way or it's that way. Just be with any area of it. This present body has permeated with limitless space, drenched in freedom. So here's meditation on Radiant Sutra number 23. All day yesterday, I moved books, placed them in alphabetical order, looked for missing ones, Gilbert and Greg. And now I can't find Gilead, misplaced again. And the Merton journals, my body aches, and the morning sun has not yet hit the window beside my desk. The dog asleep in the dining room. Even so, the blinds still closed, weary from what we miss. Tidal water, vigil. My hair longer, the lilac ash faded after a few weeks, barefoot. And Bishop's letters placed near her poems. Then Gwendolyn Brooks before Bly, a whole shelf for Wolf, and before breakfast, a full body stretch, arms reaching for the sky. And I'm going to end on the last poem in the book Reservoir. Just wanted to mention the art, the cover art is by a poet, Aliki Barnstone. You may know her. And I'm really grateful for her. It's a watercolor, which is kind of unbelievable if you look at it. Okay, so the last poem is called Early Morning. Early morning, early May, mid-morning. Early May, mid-morning. To write a poem is to say, I am living again, opening the door to the known, unknowing, welcome and hospitality. The baby birds in the basket on the porch disappeared. We want to believe they flew away and live in the boxwood close by. We stop, listen, wait. I stop mid-sentence, light the incense, beside myself with longing, like the honeysuckle consuming the backyard, like the prayer flags fallen to the ground. Unrequited love. When it rains, a natural spring runs along the tree line to the reservoir. We cannot stop it, nor do we want to change the descending path. We welcome shifting ground, erosion. It suits us. The subtle sand mixed with scattered leaves and soil. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm reading from Santa Cruz and happy to be included. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for so many remarkable and memorable moments, including, or maybe even stemming from, all day yesterday I moved books. We can all identify with that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, our final reader is Lynn Axelrod.
Thank you. And Anne, thank you for doing all the arranging of all of this. Appreciate that. The first one I'm going to read is something that was published in a journal recently, and the title refers to, I don't know if you can, it's terrible, see this. It's the sculpture by Degas, the little ballerina. I'm sure you've either seen it or you've seen pictures of it. And this is called Intimate Stranger, Marie van Goetham, which is her name. My lower spine is killing me, traipsing through the National Gallery, temple of culture, all hushed reverence baked into the paintings, not scrutinized, redrawn, scraped, fretted for, dry brushed, scumbled. We circle Michelangelo's sculpture, The Slaves, twisting out of marble. Scan torsion of flesh and rib. Know only how he captured them, forever writhing. Nothing of cages, owners, or households, or if they fought in the ring. I know modern-day slave descendants. I am one from millennia past. Dare I say this aloud? I own this quantum radiance of their struggle. Raised to admire stone muscle, turning on bone in museums, picture streams of sweat, sheaves of breath. Passing Greek gods, Roman leaders, mute as we study chisel marks, abrasions, tools carve illusion, real, eyes gouged for pupils. No clues to their thoughts, not robed in purple or red, black, gray, white rock. Or as Degas sculpted young Marie, fourth position at rest, real linen sagging, slippers real satin, some things known, poverty and promise, Paris opera ballet, the male gaze, patrons, favors, one day dismissed, too often absent, then vanished. Silent Marie, bronze copies worldwide, almost alive. And then I've got a chapbook coming out, and so I thought I'd read a couple of things from that. And I think I'm supposed to say it's called Lotus Earth on Fire is the name of the chapbook. And this is called Night Crossing. There goes a plane. Night Crossing. They crossed the Rio Grande from Piedras Negras to Eagle Pass. River shunts grit, sands, legs, scraping black stone bottom. Night water laps hunger. No time for the shallow season. Clutch another's hand and another, rising like weather-beaten prayers, and fall on side-shoving currents. Lift each other past hell drops between boulders. Searchlights scan sand islands where migrant birds scrape beds, lined in bits of shell, pebble, stone. Speckled life holds for a week, yet all may wash below. Silence floods across. Or from Sabrata on the Libyan coast, past Malta, to Sicily and north. Skiffs rock on overload. Voiceless babes in salt air, clot beaches boats could not land. And the next one from this, I'm scrolling to the next one from this little collection. It's called Survival Skills. So there's a small little introduction to this poem. A coast redwood tree will sprout new trees from its roots in a circle. The trees grow tall and strong together as they're cared for by the parents' roots. That's from the Sempervirens Fund, and I'm sure many people listening know that. Survival skills. Spring, a green blade. A man shears sapling redwood en masse in the morning. Family close to his cabin, framed of harvested forebears. Sharp cuts to young bodies, perfect, prime, soft inverted V's, vertically stacked, 2-inch rocket assemblies ready for launch, until he scuttles 1,000 missions. Mothership's roots restabilize who remains, send familiar madre message, eat your veggies. She recovers steady as time, sooner than forever. Autumn shoots slip through hummus to evening fog, rise around her. Quiet beyond the man's hearing, pared down to the last safe atom of night, they lift away. And one more from there, called Never Say Never. In spring, constant swirl, barn swallows in new days, lapis blue and ginger. 1,000 swoops to the bay for grass and mud dabs. Nest cups and eve above the back door. Unless misty nights slide it down, unknotted nuggets on wet grass. Weightless as air, they rebuild. Nothing given or assumed. Not strong as steel, busy artisans. And then we've got actually another little chapbook coming out this fall, untitled, but I think we're going to go with night arrangements. And this is called, this poem, Surveyors of Night Arrangements. As daily news jolts every compass set spinning, sleepless nights I zag to a tall window, find patterns above, center myself. Grateful stars stay in place, burning so I may see them. Purple dusk draws them out, linkage to old family, surveyors of night arrangements, stark skies, shifting blue silence, always here, bent knee not needed. Today I stood with the last czar's grand nephew at our town grocery, the Palace Market. Andrew, blue-eyed Romanoff, art collective member, lived against type in this land. We nodded hello. I winked past him like a planet greeting my grandfather, who kept a forest healthy, himself alive, at the czar's pleasure. Light, though, impossible to tend as it slips into morning, a sight my old ones feared losing in shut, windowless cells. At daybreak, quiet birds stare west, not confused, just memorizing last stars fading by moonset, maps for long night flights and trails out. And this one is called Fenestra. And the fenestra is the opening on a butterfly's wing or another wing. When you see something that's translucent, it's called a fenestra. And of course, window would be the word that comes to mind that we know. This is called fenestra. Paper Mill Creek flows in wide, our own Missouri. Mid-morning jacks snap at mayflies. Sunlight transluces through their wing fenestra, splays and dapples of gleam. Air almost visible by gnat buzz. Pickleweed greens out wide to greet them all, like a mother holds a family together. You break the mesmer, elusive beneath a splash. Nothing solid, not mud swirl curled against the current, not the embankment crumbled one dirt speck at a time. Granular drownings, nearly unnoticed. Then, LOL, up you pop, whip water from your hair, bobbing cork, glistening grin. If only my father were as buoyant when he dived in the sound, not waiting, not scanning. Quick bottom spun him silent on the ghost line of his infant fontanelles. Leaned from the sea, shut until his lungs heaved a knot of saltgrass onto sand. Beach heat, unwaxed pores, plasma bathed his heart. Our breath mingled in the light, resumed its living circuit in the dark of our bodies. And then I will just do a last one, which is for my husband, who is now himself coping with Parkinson's. So I understood some of what you were saying, Connie. And this is ending on a lighter note. This is called Love Song as a Music Appreciation Course. Because you remember those wacky college songs about grandma swinging on the old bar door. Because you snore, but I purr, and only sometimes on Tuesdays. Because you remember entire poems by Robert Service and can pull lengthy Greek quotes out of your brain while listening to the Spaniels doo-wop. Because you don't show off those professional awards and tell a funny true tale about how you got into your line of work by accident. Because you drive me crazy, smiling, while we're having a serious talk about that thing we got snippy about. Because you say it's just that you like talking to me. Because you get misty at Vera Lynn singing I'll Be Seeing You. Because I know that despite your sometimes growl at my edit suggestions, you often take them. Because you get embarrassed when I say your long fingers are elegant. Because you forget I'm in the house when you turn take 5 up to volume 12, but then play your father's LP of Brooks' Violin Concerto, or remind me that Rachmaninoff, your favorite, went through long bouts of depression his entire life. Because you play Danny Boy on your harmonica for special occasions in front of no one but me. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank all of you for your wonderful readings. I want to say this, Lynn, I think you speak for all of us when you say you're grateful that the stars stay in place. I think we all feel that these days, if we didn't feel it before. Okay, thanks everyone. And everyone, please join us at the Marin Poetry Center. Again, you don't need to be from Marin. Don't worry about that. I'm not from Marin, and I'm involved with it. So go to the website, marinpoetrycenter.org, and you'll find a lot of things, many of which, maybe all of which, will interest you. So with that, I will, and thanks to Anne, who is the overall chair of all the.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you, everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we will have 2 more in-person events. If you are game, you can join us on the 19th and 26th. And we will have Jane McPherson as our event assistant. So just if you want to attend, just go on the website, marinpoetrycenter.org, and you will see that's the last 2 events, in-person events, that is going to be happening this season. Okay. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Judy, for the wonderful host. today hosting the event. And then thank you, everybody. You've done a great job.
Thank you, Judy.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you, Ann. Bye all.
Bye. Take care.
Here.
Bye.